up to, there's two Mamorim there. You make sure you got the right one. It's the Roim, which we're going to go to and finish. Yeah, page Kuf Nun Aleph. So what are we explaining? The essential question, the basic question is why the need for the trembling and the dread before Matan Torah. And as you pointed out, Matan Torah is not a dreadful experience, surely. It's the opposite. It's the most loving experience. That's referring to Matan Torah. You chose us, you loved us. So what's all this dread and trembling? And the people standing from a distance. The Rebbe explains, because when a radical new entity is to emerge, the old must give way. The various examples we brought for that in nature, within the human psyche, etc. Hence, since Yidden, in the words of the Maamer, will now be revealed in them or unlocked within them, a Giluy Oir Atzmi, this essential investure of Hashem, which he calls or defines as the Kav or Emtsoi, the center Kav, expressive of Tiferes, in contrast to Chesed on the right and Gvur on the left. And this is essential and radical. Therefore, there has to be the bittul of the previous state. Then the Rebbe asked in Ois Beis the following. He had stated the nature of Oir Atzmi is that in all of its levels of revelation, it's equal. There's no hischalkos, there's no change. There's no division. No division. Essence, by definition, we didn't address this, and we're going to say this now. This is a very big concept in Chassidus, that etzem bilti mischalek, that essence is not given to division. What does that statement mean? You take anything, an apple, and you cut it into small pieces, it's still an apple. It's a small piece of apple. So what is meant by the essence? When you get down to the essence of it, you can't divide it. And if you do, it doesn't exist anymore. It just doesn't exist. It's not a small piece of it. It's just not there. Now, the atom, which is a relative essence, it's not the essence of matter, but it's a relative essence. If you take anything and you manipulate its atomic structure, you don't have the thing anymore. It's gone. So etzem bilti mischalek doesn't mean you can't divide it. It means more that once divided, there's no it anymore. That's what it means. Whereas all manifestations can be separated and divided. For example, the apple again, peel off the peel. It's not the body of the apple, it's the peel, but it's the peel of an apple. It's still fundamentally apple. We haven't touched the essence when we're dealing with all of the manifestations. But when you get down to the essence, that's not given to division. Tamper there, and it ceases to be. Now, the words of the Maamer here were that the etzem, which is expressed in Tiferes, not in Chesed and not in Gevurah, they are manifestations of the divine. But the essence, the eye of God, is found expression only in the central revelation. The words here, lo yischalkos, there's no division. As we just pointed out, essence is fundamentally, it's non-composite. It's not made up of parts. It's a fundamental I am, or it is. So how can we say that etzem bilti? How can we say there's no ischalkos? We didn't express it this way, but this is more literal to the Maamer here. No ischalkos is oir and keli, like every other manifestation. There's the oir of Tiferes and the keli of Tiferes. There's ischalkos built right into the whole nature of the revelation of Tiferes, of compassion. Like everything else, there's the oir that drives it, there's the keli by which it's expressed, there's the vision right there, there's components, there's parts. It has parts. That's really the question. And because it has parts, therefore, the further down you go the line, the parts change and evolve. The keli becomes bigger, the oir gets less. This is really the question. There are parts to it. Ischalkos. Let me be more faithful now to the words of the Maamer. It's the same question as we expressed it the other day, but that's really what he's asking, and that's far more to the to the point. So the question is clear. What does it mean, lo yischalkos? There's no parts. There's a whole mechanism, Oyer and Keli. Just to translate this for a McGill student, an act of compassion. There's two things there always. There is what drives it, and then there's the Keli by which I express it. There's two things. My compassion in my heart and the piece of bread that I give you, the hand that I extend. It's not an indivisible, essential state. Just like chesed is, the chesed that motivates, the gift, gevura, the judgment that motivates, the judgment or the rebuke, Oyer and Keli, no different. Why is Tiferes, and what makes Tiferes different than chesed and gevura? Fundamentally, there are parts, two parts to it, gilui and helem. There's gilui, meaning to say, the motivating expression, then it's contained in some vessel, internally also. Language, moved by compassion, the heart, and then you think about it. It's a keli right there. And it can continue to get lower and lower as I finally use my physical hand, keli, or my mouth to say the compassionate words, or the hand to provide the compassionate provision. So there's this chalukos. Why is this any different? The chesed and gevura. That's the question he's asking. So to begin to understand that, he explained his chalukos on two levels so far. And neither of them are atmizdiki chalukos. The first is iskalulus. We spoke, Tiferes means beauty. Beauty always lies in harmony. That's the nature of it. A single color is not beautiful. Not Tiferes. A single note is not. When there's a harmony, two notes already starting Tiferes. When there's a interplay of different shapes or colors, that's Tiferes. A singular thing had its own simplicity to it, but beautiful it's not. Sorry, black is not beautiful, white is not beautiful, and red's not beautiful. Beauty is when it's harmony in Torah. That's what his Tiferes means. So Tiferes is the harmony of chesed and gevura. And we're struggling to understanding why Dafke, the harmony, that's where the etzem is drawn. We'll get to it at the end of this paragraph, by the grace of God. But we're trying to understand that the harmony of Tiferes is not different parts. It's one thing. He said it's lo yischalkos. This is the paradox. Notwithstanding that Tiferes has also Oyer and Keli, as we just demonstrated. That's not yischalkos. That's really one thing. Whereas in chesed and gevura, it's yischalkos. There's the Oyer of chesed and the Keli of chesed. And the two separate things. I'm motivated. I'm a loving person. That's the Oyer. The Keli is the way I'm going to express it. And they don't have to exist. I can have the Oyer without the Keli. I'm just by nature a very giving person. There's no occasion to give and not giving. There's no one to give to, there's no one to give to. By nature, a person is a very gevura person. That's the Oyer of gevura. And there's no scenario here where I have to express my discipline or displeasure or critique. Gevura is a criticism. There's no one to criticize. So I'm not critical right now. But the Oyer is still there, separate. Doesn't have to have a Keli. That's just chalkus. Oyer and Keli. Oyer again is the state of the person. And the Keli is where I'm going to express it. So what are we saying? So when it comes to chesed, we're the two separate things that we just said. You can have the Oyer without the Keli. Now we're saying Tiferes, it's one thing. It's etzem. It's one thing. There's no ischalkus, but there's the Oyer that motivates compassion, and again there's the manifestation of compassion on levels and levels and levels. So the answer is no. It's different. The Oyer and Keli of Tiferes is harmonious. 3 levels of harmony. Unlike the Oyer and Keli of chesed and gevura, they're not harmonious. One thing. Give me a piece of bread and I'm motivated to have chesed. What's the bread got to do with something else entirely, which I'm using the Keli to express, and not one thing. But somehow we're going to see when it comes to Tiferes is one thing. The Keli and the Oyer is one thing. So this is Iskalulus. Now he's explaining it on 3 levels. The first level of Iskalulus of chesed, again, Tiferes is chesed and gevura fusing. And therein lies the essence to be explained. But first demonstrating the 3 levels of chesed. The first level was Tell me, what's the first level of chesed? Of Yiskalulus, of Tiferes, of fusion, which still doesn't express rawly the essence, but we're approaching it. The first example was what? And McGill stood in the sitting here, give me the scenario, pure English. Give me the scene.
Expressing love, but in a way that doesn't show the love that's the recipient. It feels like discipline.
What's the scene? The scene you described. You're very graphically described. What's the scenario? A father disciplining his child. What he's seeing is discipline. Gevura. What's motivating it is love. So there's his Yiskalulus. There we're starting to see a fusion of opposites. Okay. But here, there's still separate things. Gevura externally, chesed internally. Higher level of fusion. Next example. We only did two yesterday. A higher level of fusion of two opposite drives. What's the example he gave? From the story of King Saul. What's the story there? He gave two examples, two illustrations. What's the story of King Saul?
There's a drought.
There was a drought. And then tell me the story.
Motivated by, so David and Alf doesn't understand it. He asks why. So Hashem says, on the one hand, you didn't give a proper hesped and kavod to King Shaul. And on the other hand, because King Shaul did something to the Givonim that affected the training that affected the Givonim Parnasa.
He wiped out the city of Nov and it destroyed their Parnasa. So the drought is coming for two contrasting reasons. Opposite reasons, the same net result. Mamish. In other words, each one could be sufficient kind of on its own and brought the same results. Very different to the first example, where the chesed is hidden in the act of the discipline, but it drives the discipline. This is a very different, a much more profound harmony. Each cheshbon itself would lead to this result of the famine. And it's a combination of both of them that led to this powerful famine. On the one hand, King Saul didn't get the respect he deserves. On the other hand, King Saul is being punished, or we are suffering the consequences of King Saul's misdeed. Opposite. So that is an illustration of a greater fusion where two opposite cheshbonos lead to the same conclusion. One wonders why it doesn't bring another example from Chumash. Pashas Noach. Okay, we'll put that aside. The reason not to destroy the world. Hashem in the Pasuk gives two opposite reasons. Why destroy the world?
A bit different there in Leah.
I'm sorry, that yeah.
The different result.
That's the same reason. It's a similar kind of thing, but the flip side. So it's not the same thing. Yeah. Same reason, different results. Because the person has a Yetzer Hara and that drives him all the time, man is worthless, destroy him. Because Yetzer Hara, that's how he's made. So that's what he is. So we'll save him. Can't help himself. That's two opposite. Chesed. It's one cheshbon leading to different conclusions. So it's the flip side of. It's in seichel. That's an example how in seichel one idea can go chesed or gevura. Okay, so it's related, but put that aside. Okay, what was the other example you brought in the Maimer? Another illustration of two opposite things at the same time. Pasuk in Yirmiyahu. The Beis HaMikdash. The prophet quotes God as saying, what? What? Well, where the two opposite things at the same time, yeah? What? Is again, McGill still, what are you talking about? What's the story here? What's the pasuk saying? What's God saying? From the day the Beis HaMikdash was founded, it's been a source of aggravation. And elsewhere the pasuk says, the day it was founded, God rejoiced. So he aggravated the rejoicing. Opposite things, same day, the Beis Hamikdash was founded. Another example of two contrary midas contributing to the same moment. Still not etzem. V'yesh oid. Now we're up to the number 17. V'yesh oid oifen shel yiskalalos. There's a higher level of fusion which draws on the etzem, which is going to explain. What are we out to explain? What's the fundamental question that we started the shiur with this morning, articulated clearly what the problem is that we need to answer? What's the question? Anybody? What's the question we're driving to answer now? How can we say what?
How is Tiferes different than all the other midas?
That's true, but way too vague. What's the fund? I don't hear the question.
What are the parts to Tiferes? Or
No,
how
no,
can there not be parts?
They're two separate things. What are the parts? Eir and Keli, like everything else is in Eir and Keli.
Where can we find that there aren't two parts?
How is it?
That is there.
Or right, how can we say there's no ischalkos when there is ischalkos? Or what drives the act of compassion and the Keli by which we invest the act of compassion. The two separate things, like everything else must have Eir and Keli. As we demonstrate at the beginning of the shiur, what Eir means, what Keli means in our context, and it's no different to Chesed and Gevurah, surely. That's the question which we're driving to answer. So never yesh oid oifen shall yiskalu laws. There's a third level of fusion. Vu mashakosov expressed in the pasuk in Iyov, hamshel or pachad imoy, rulership and dread is with him. Oiseh shalom bim Roimov, he makes peace on high, which is the source of the Oiseh shalom bim Roimov. Yaseh shalom aleinu. That's what's adapted from this pasuk. Peace on high. For goodness sake, there's war there too. What's going on? For Dorsha Razal, so the famous answer in the Medrash, in various Midrashim. Yes, there's need for peace. Michal sar shel mayim veGavriel sar shel eish. Angel Michael, the prince of water, or Chesed. Gavriel, the prince or the malach of fire. And water and fire are incompatible. And yet, in heaven, they are. They did not extinguish one the other. They exist in complete fusion and harmony. What's happening here is that the midas of Chesed and Gevurah is battling be'etzem behusam. They become completely dissolved from their identity. If they get dissolved from their identity, friends, and disappear, that's not peace. It's you're gone. That's not peace. So they are there. They're there, but in such a way that their natures do not conflict, is what he means. When you get rid of your enemy, that's not peace. Peace is not there anymore. Peace is there is an opposite, and you are coexisting. So when he says here, what?
Bittul hayesh, not bittul b'metzias.
Or misbatlin be'etzem husam. No, it's bittul b'metzias. It is bittul b'metzias. Bittul b'metzias does not mean you disappear. Bittul hayesh means that's a low level. Bittul hayesh is I put myself aside, now you get a chance to speak. It's also a kind of disappearing. Bittul b'metzias means we're coexisting, we're talking at the same time. That's only true, and it's not bittul hayesh, bittul b'metzias. Bittul hayesh is iskafia. Okay, so I shut up and you can speak. Talking a much deeper harmony here. That they're saying the same thing. How so? As he explains, because of their bittul before the king, the Eibishter, they completely become dissolved, as it were, from their identity, again, not disappearing, but often in such a way, keywords, the whole identity is the king, which is the truth of their identity. They only exist because the king wants them. Not giving place for one. Your turn, I'll be silent. No. Here we're saying that they participate in one inyan. So here we're approaching an atzmizdike fusion, and let's conclude the ois, and then we'll offer some explanation. Even higher than Michal and Gabriel is iskalulus, is such a fusion. So if you can't identify where's the head and where's the bottom, shemekablim zem is there. Keyword here is one contributes to the other. We're not just saying the same thing because of habittal to the king. In other words, when the king has spoken, has expressed his view, and then we ask, no, what do you say, Michal? What do you say, Gabriel? They say the same thing. They say they have different temperaments. They see things completely differently in their own nature. But once the king has spoken, then there's battle, and they both express the king's view. They're not receiving from each other. A higher level is the fourth level. One is incomplete without the other. The head receives from the end. It means, therefore, that the end is the head. Like the simple example in the body, the head wants to go somewhere, needs the feet to take it there. It's one body. There's no competition between the parts here. One completes the other. Now this fusion, where one is incomplete fundamentally without the other, that's that is essence. And that's what we mean by Noah's Chalkus. Is there a head and are there feet? Yep. Yeah. But there's no Chalkus here. This is one body. And one is incomplete without the other. Why? Because that's what bodies have, heads and feet. So the king desires to have all of these components to his realm and to his ministry. The ultimate is where each one looks at the other and sees, all I am and all you are the king's desire. Now, since the king desires both of us, I'm nothing if you're not here. And you're nothing if I'm not here. That's true oneness. Now, how does this translate into Tiferes? Let's put this in different words. So he's saying that Tiferes, this is the Oir Atzmi, which is now being unlocked, invested in Nishamas Yisrael by Matan Torah, which is radically beyond Chesed and Gevurah, which means Ishtalshalos. Therefore, there has to be the whole bittul before. So let's just translate this. I'm a Gil student. What's this going to do with compassion? The manifestation of this benefesh adam is Tiferes, is Rachme. So as we said in the first year, what sets apart Tiferes from Chesed and Gevurah is Chesed is about the way I'm wired. Gevurah is about the way I'm wired. What motivates compassion to begin with is the other person. And therefore, in Pashat Oisis in simple language, if the motivation throughout the entire, the fuel, everything that inspires this, is the other person's need, that is the constant that will define and what I'm going to be doing. And the Oir and Keli, therefore, is the same. Because this is what you need. If it's what you need, then when I'm going to give you a big thing or a small thing, it's all the same. It's because it's all motivated by one consideration, the objective need of the other person. To illustrate how that contrasts with Chesed and Gevurah. Avraham Avinu was frustrated because he's Isha Chesed and there's no one to give Chesed for. Gevurah, a person who's by nature Gevurah, don't give him a cause to fight. He's frustrated. He's a fighter. He's Gevurah, and he's itching to get into an argument. That's how. Rachmim isn't about I got to express myself. The whole thing of Rachmim is there's a situation here that needs to be helped. So therefore, contrasting it to Chesed and Gevurah, Avram is going to be really fulfilled when there's a big thing of chesed to do. The Gevurah guy gets a real good argument to give him a big battle to fight. He's more for a small one, less fulfilled. He says Chalkos is division, Oir and Keli. Tiferes transcends this whole consideration. Tiferes is the Inyan Atzmi. Inyan Atzmi means it's not about my fulfillment, my expression. Etzem bilti mizgala. We're going to territory, friends, which is very subtle. I'm not going to explain everything. But etzem by nature is bilti mizgala. It's not about revelation or expression. It's about the truth of beingness. My being, your being. So this person has a need. And that's what starts the whole thing of compassion. So therefore, it's all based on you. So we'll give you this, he won't give you. There's no hischalkus going on, no division going on in the one who gives the compassion. More fulfilled, less fulfilled, more engaged, less engaged. He's equally engaged. It's what you need. Give you a big thing, give you a big thing, a small, a cup of water, whatever you need. Whatever you need, you get. And that's the overriding and only consideration. That's what the Yischalkus means. That the transit is deeper. Yischalkus begins. Where does all division begin? Where does it all start? When the Eibishter reveals Bligvul and Gvul. That's when it all starts. That's where division begins. Yes and no. This whole binary system upon which all of existence is built. Everything is yes and no. It all starts with God's decision to reveal and to contain. Oyer and Keli, infinite, finite. Havaya Elikim, same words for the same thing, in our purpose of our discussion right now. In their own worlds, they're very different. Oyer and Keli. Mitzad the Eibishter, it's all him. All him. Mitzad the Etzem, Bligvul, and Gvul is all him. So how does that manifest in Tiferes? In Tiferes is when the consideration is all the other. Now, why should there be consideration for the other? Because the other is him, ultimately. God's creation, God, that's what's going to motivate it all. So therefore, there's no difference whether I have to do a disciplinary thing or to do a chesed thing, Oyer and Keli. That's not the consideration. It's what you need. So if it's what you need, whatever I'm giving you, it's all one thing. There's no ischalkus. Less fulfilled, more fulfilled, bigger, smaller. Whereas if it's only chesed and gevurah, again, a big chesed is fulfilling, a big gevurah is, big fight is fulfilling, less is less fulfilling. More expressive, less expressive of me. This is not about me. So it's not a question of more expression or less expression of me. It's not what drives this. More oid, more keli, less, more engaged, less engaged. Totally engaged for your need, whatever it is. It can be a small thing, a small, big thing, a big thing. It's total engagement. Okay, as we're talking, the ICs come out. It's clear now. Compassion is total engagement. Chesed and gevurah are not. Depends on the situation. Big battle, I'm more engaged. A small battle, less engaged. Because that's about me and my need for a good fight, or a good argument, or an act of chesed. Big act, in other words, if it's about my chesed and I did a very great thing, I feel really good. Did a small thing, feel less good. That's just chalkus right there. But compassion is not about me. It's about your need. So I'm totally invested in whatever is required. There's no chalkus mitzad the person. The oil, the keli, giving how much hold. One consideration you. And why am I considering you? That's what the good Lord wants. You are a reflection of the divine. Okay. Someone understood. Ois Gimel. Okay. Yesh l'hoiz bazer. Let's finish the ois. No, yeah, we can finish it. Shaloi b'zubavat shagil lekav emtzei shabat Torah Paul es havaya chadosh nishamas Yisrael. The Rabbi, not only that this revelation of Hashem's essential self, which is expressed in the Kavem Tzoi, the center revelation, as it were, which transcends Chesed and Gevura. So not only did this effect that the Neshamas Yisrael become radically transformed, restate that means that's when Hashem revealed in every Neshama the Chelek Elokah Mimal Mamish. That's when the Mamish was revealed. Till then, Chelek, Havaya, Mimal. Chelek is Gvura, Havaya is Chesed, or Chelek Elokah is Malach Kalamin, Mimal is Seviv Kalamin. That was still Matan Torah. Matan Torah was the Mamish was revealed, Atzmos. We said in order to open up, to receive the transcendent, fundamental, divine truth, you got to open up. You got to let go of the self on every level, not the chesed, not the gevura. So in addition to that, this moment of, again, but like the seed germinates, which is before the Havaya, the emergence of the new entity, he's saying here that the bittul itself summons forth the Kavem Tzoi. It's not only make way so we can reveal this essential truth. It's in your making way, this is Megala, the essential truth. In your bittul, that's the Keli. You can't rush this. Okay, we're going to stop here. We'll finish it tomorrow. I don't want to rush it.